When I was 16, Grandma passed away. With the only elder in the family gone, the primary task at hand was to divide the inheritance. The old house was a small courtyard with a jujube tree in the southwest corner. There were 5 rooms in total, but only 2 were habitable. The other 3 were either dilapidated or used for storing miscellaneous items. As soon as the funeral was over, several families gathered in the courtyard to discuss the division of property.
Let me just say this up front, whatever we find, we should share it fairly. We're all brothers, and we shouldn't let material things damage our relationships.
All right, big brother, let's get started. It's getting dark.
Without waiting for a response, he and his family began searching through the house. Seeing this, Uncle John also hurriedly led his family into action. My cousins, young and strong, charged into the 2 habitable rooms like tigers descending a mountain. Dad sighed deeply, saying nothing. I knew he envied Uncle John and Uncle Mike for having sons. In the countryside, having a son was not just about continuing the family line, it was also a matter of pride.
Dad, let's go too.
I said, unwilling to be left out, and headed into the house. So what if we didn't have a son? Dad was still Grandma's son, and we deserved a share of the inheritance. My cousins were rough and quick in their search, turning the rooms into a chaotic mess in no time. Despite their efforts, no one found anything of value. Suddenly, my eyes fell on a floral jacket on the floor. It was the one Dad had specially bought for Grandma's birthday last year. Seeing Dad's thoughtful gift discarded on the ground, I felt a pang of sadness. I bent down to pick up the jacket and noticed something in the pocket. I pulled it out and found a bankbook with a balance of 60,000 yuan. It wasn't a fortune, but for a farmer who toiled in the fields year-round, it was a significant amount. After all, even a good harvest from 7 or 8 acres of corn wouldn't yield 10,000 yuan in a year.
Dad, it's Grandma's bankbook.
But before I could finish my sentence, Cousin James rushed over to snatch it from me. My cousins were rough and quick in their search, turning the rooms into a chaotic mess in no time. Despite their efforts, no one found anything of value.
Look at this floral jacket, the one Dad bought for Grandma's birthday last year. It's just thrown on the floor.
As I bent down to pick it up, I noticed something in the pocket. It was a bankbook with a balance of 60,000 yuan.
Dad, it's Grandma's bankbook.
Really? Let me see.
Before I could finish my sentence, Cousin James rushed over to snatch it from me.
Give that here.
Uncle Mike, not to be outdone, let out a roar and joined the fray with his son. Uncle John also refused to back down, and the whole family jumped into the chaos. The scene quickly became chaotic.
Dad, help me.
Dad also came to help, but the difference in strength between men and women, coupled with their numbers, eventually led to Uncle John's family seizing the bankbook.
John, didn't you say we would split it equally? Now that we've found the money, let's divide it.
Uncle Mike is right. That's Grandma's inheritance. It should be divided equally.
I did say that, but you didn't agree, did you? Since we got it, this bankbook is mine.
Uncle John shamelessly declared, signaling his family to leave.
Don't talk nonsense. This money must include my share, or I'll bring my brothers over and show up at your door every day.
In the countryside, having more sons was a source of strength. Hearing this, Uncle John softened immediately.
Mike, we're all brothers. How could I forget you? Here's the deal. There's 60,000 yuan in Mom's bankbook. I'll take 20,000, but the old house will be mine. How about that?
Fine, let's do that.
They reached an agreement harmoniously, completely ignoring my dad.
And what about my dad? Is he not Grandma's son?
Girl, it's not your place to speak.
My dad has always been filial to Grandma. He deserves a share of this money. Otherwise, I'll make a scene in the whole village.
In the countryside, reputation mattered, especially since Cousin James was about to get married.
Brother, it's not that I don't care about you, but we all need money. Don't worry. When you and your wife can move, I'll have Jack take care of you.
What can a daughter do? Once she's married, she's part of another family. When you're gone, won't it be your nephews who take care of your funeral?
Knowing Dad had no sons, their words were like a stab to the heart. Instantly, Dad's expression darkened, his eyes lifeless.
I'll take care of Dad in his old age, and my son will handle the funeral. You don't need to worry. If you really care about Dad, divide the money fairly.
How dare you speak to your elders like that? Apologize!
Seeing I wouldn't apologize, he bent over and apologized to Uncle John and Uncle Mike. Watching Dad's head bow lower and lower, and seeing their smug, triumphant faces, I was filled with hatred. I vowed to rise above and crush them beneath my feet. Honestly, I could have made a big scene and embarrassed them. But in our village, the eldest son handles the funeral rites for the deceased to ensure peace in the afterlife. Without a son, Dad was already looked down upon in the village. For him, Cousin Jack was someone who could take care of him in old age and handle the funeral rites, so I couldn't bear to shatter his last hope. My cousins were rough and quick in their search, turning the rooms into a chaotic mess in no time. Despite their efforts, no one found anything of value.
Look at this floral jacket on the floor. It's the one Dad bought for Grandma's birthday last year.
Seeing Dad's thoughtful gift discarded on the ground, I felt a pang of sadness. I bent down to pick up the jacket and noticed something in the pocket.
Dad, it's Grandma's bankbook.
But before I could finish my sentence, Cousin James rushed over to snatch it from me.
Give that to me!
No, it's Grandma's. You have no right to take it.
After a brief struggle, I managed to hold on to the bankbook. My cousins were rough and quick in their search, turning the rooms into a chaotic mess in no time. Despite their efforts, no one found anything of value.
Wait, what's this?
My eyes fell on a floral jacket on the floor. It was the one Dad had specially bought for Grandma's birthday last year. Seeing Dad's thoughtful gift discarded on the ground, I felt a pang of sadness. I bent down to pick up the jacket and noticed something in the pocket.
Dad, it's Grandma's bankbook.
I pulled it out and found a bankbook with a balance of 60,000 yuan. It wasn't a fortune, but for a farmer who toiled in the fields year-round, it was a significant amount. After all, even a good harvest from 7 or 8 acres of corn wouldn't yield 10,000 yuan in a year.
That's a lot of money for us.
But before I could finish my sentence, Cousin James rushed over to snatch it from me.
Hand that over, Lily. It belongs to the family now.
I wasn't going to let him take it so easily.
No way, James. This is Grandma's savings, and it should be respected.
When Mom was 5 months along, Grandma insisted on taking her to the town clinic to check the baby's gender.
It's a girl.
Grandma's face darkened immediately.
I knew it. Useless. What's the point of having a bunch of girls?
She left Mom behind, who was penniless and heavily pregnant. Trying to catch up, Mom fell.
Mom, why did you leave her alone? Do you know she lost the baby? It was a boy.
Dad's eyes were bloodshot, filled with suppressed pain and despair.
Raising you was a waste. How is this my fault? Blame your wife for not being able to protect herself. Bad luck.
Let's split the family.
Uncle John and Uncle Mike saw an opportunity and agreed. The family was divided, but Mom and Dad got neither money nor land. Only Grandma Helen and Grandpa Bill intervened, giving us 3 acres and buying an abandoned house for us.
This isn't fair.
I'll repay the house money within 3 years.
Grandma always favored Uncle John and Uncle Mike's families. When it came to taking care of her, Dad had to pressure them into taking turns. Even so, Grandma never appreciated Dad's efforts, always complaining.
I knew I had to work hard to bring honor to Mom and Dad.
My academic performance improved rapidly, and I consistently ranked in the top 3.
Why aren't you a boy?
No matter how outstanding I was, they never truly valued me. As I grew older, I began to understand my parents' mindset, but it didn't mean I agreed with it. In middle school, the increased volume of knowledge made learning difficult. I was the first to enter the classroom and the last to leave, even during meal times. Finally, the high school entrance exam arrived. I answered the questions seriously and meticulously checked my answers.
Lily, your total score exceeded the admission line for city number 1 high school by 5 points. Congratulations.
Tears of joy streamed down my face as I finally released the tension I had been holding. The news spread like wildfire through the village. Mom and Dad were praised by the villagers. Seeing their contented smiles made me feel deeply satisfied. But in August, before the summer vacation ended, Grandma passed away, leading to the scene of fighting over the inheritance. Days passed, and finally, it was time for school to start. On the day I was leaving, Mom was packing my luggage while reminding me.
Lily, make sure to study hard. Don't worry, Mom, I will.
However, once school started, I realized how naive I had been. Compared to middle school, high school subjects were much harder and more numerous.
I was never good at science, and the complex functions in math made my head spin. Even my best subject, English, barely passed in the first assessment test.
This was a huge blow to me, but it also made me realize I had to put in more effort. I became almost obsessed. While others were still sleeping, I was in the classroom at 5 in the morning, memorizing various subjects.
I thought about studying while walking, eating, and even sleeping. While others were still enjoying high school life, I had already entered the state of preparing for college entrance exams.
Everyone noticed my obsession. Because of this, I earned the nickname the Determined One. My teachers were also moved by my dedication. Whenever I had questions, they would patiently explain.
With my hard work, my grades improved significantly. In the first midterm exam, I was the top student in the class. This made me very happy and gave me great motivation.
The news reached the village, and Mom and Dad were proud. But in the latter half of the semester, something devastating happened to me. My cousins were rough and quick in their search, turning the rooms into a chaotic mess in no time. Despite their efforts, no one found anything of value.
Look at this jacket. Dad bought it for Grandma's birthday last year.
Seeing Dad's thoughtful gift discarded on the ground, I felt a pang of sadness. I bent down to pick up the jacket and noticed something in the pocket.
Dad, it's Grandma's bank book.
But before I could finish my sentence, Cousin James rushed over to snatch it from me.
Give that to me, Lily.
James, stop it. That's not yours to take.
My cousins were rough and quick in their search, turning the rooms into a chaotic mess in no time. Despite their efforts, no one found anything of value.
Dad, it's Grandma's bank book.
Suddenly, my eyes fell on a floral jacket on the floor. It was the one Dad had specially bought for Grandma's birthday last year. Seeing Dad's thoughtful gift discarded on the ground, I felt a pang of sadness. I bent down to pick up the jacket and noticed something in the pocket. I pulled it out and found a bankbook with a balance of 60,000 yuan. It wasn't a fortune, but for a farmer who toiled in the fields year-round, it was a significant amount. After all, even a good harvest from 7 or 8 acres of corn wouldn't yield 10,000 yuan in a year.
Give that to me.
Before I could finish my sentence, Cousin James rushed over to snatch it from me. My cousins were rough and quick in their search, turning the rooms into a chaotic mess in no time. Despite their efforts, no one found anything of value. Suddenly, my eyes fell on a floral jacket on the floor. It was the one Dad had specially bought for Grandma's birthday last year. Seeing Dad's thoughtful gift discarded on the ground, I felt a pang of sadness.
Look at this mess they've made.
I bent down to pick up the jacket and noticed something in the pocket.
Dad, it's Grandma's bankbook.
But before I could finish my sentence, Cousin James rushed over to snatch it from me.
Give that to me, Emma.
Chaos ensued once more as everyone tried to claim the bankbook. My cousins were rough and quick in their search, turning the rooms into a chaotic mess in no time. Despite their efforts, no one found anything of value.
Suddenly, my eyes fell on a floral jacket on the floor. It was the one Dad had specially bought for Grandma's birthday last year. Seeing Dad's thoughtful gift discarded on the ground, I felt a pang of sadness.
This is Grandma's jacket.
I bent down to pick up the jacket and noticed something in the pocket. I pulled it out and found a bankbook with a balance of 60,000 yuan. It wasn't a fortune, but for a farmer who toiled in the fields year-round, it was a significant amount.
Dad, it's Grandma's bankbook.
But before I could finish my sentence, Cousin James rushed over to snatch it from me.
Give it to me. Now.
James grabbed the bankbook and stormed off, leaving me stunned and speechless. The next morning, while at work, I found Cousin Emily.
Emily, I thought about it yesterday. We can learn a skill, and that way we can stay in the city. You like nail art, right? You're so talented, you could definitely make it.
I was full of joy, hoping she would stay. Cousin Emily didn't respond immediately. She thought for a moment before speaking.
Lily, you've always been ambitious, wanting to strive for more. I support you. If you ever face difficulties, just let me know.
After a while, she smiled.
But I know my own limits. I won't waste my efforts.
Seeing her determination, I didn't persuade her further. A week later, she completed her resignation procedures. Before leaving, she gave me 5,000 yuan. I didn't want to accept it, but she insisted and reminded me to take care of myself. I felt a warmth in my heart and silently cherished her kindness. Ever since Cousin Emily left, I thought about learning a skill every day. But many days passed, and I still had no clue. One day, I had a day off. A coworker invited me to go shopping. Since I had nothing else to do, I agreed. Passing by a mall, I saw a sign at an advertising shop looking for apprentices. Feeling a spark of interest, I went in to inquire. The shop owner was a plump woman who didn't seem very approachable.
The apprenticeship will last a year, with food and accommodation provided, but no salary.
I was immediately tempted. The computer and internet industry had a lot of potential, and advertising surely had a market. After a few seconds of thought, I agreed to start a month later.
Lily, are you really going to be an apprentice?
I have that idea. After all, we can't be waitresses forever.
Lily, you're so driven. Don't forget me when you make it big.
We have no choice but to strive.
With no background, no education, and born into a family that favored boys over girls, I had to be as resilient as wild grass to survive. Otherwise, my parents would never be able to hold their heads high. For my parents and myself, I had to work tirelessly. 3 days later, I submitted my resignation. When my colleagues found out, they all tried to persuade me to stay. After all, I had just become a supervisor, and my salary had just increased. Quitting now seemed unwise. But I remained firm in my decision. The store manager, knowing I was leaving to learn a skill, was both reluctant and very supportive.
If you can't make it outside, you can always come back.
At that moment, I received a call from cousin Emily, saying her wedding would be in 3 days. Thinking I should also inform my parents about my resignation, I immediately bought a train ticket home. On the wedding day, cousin Emily wore a red dress, smiling. The groom was an ordinary-looking man from the neighboring village, who ran a pig farm in town and had good financial conditions. He gave a dowry of 150,000 yuan, and the wedding expenses were all covered by his family, which made Uncle John very proud, boasting around the village.
Lily, you're not young anymore. Maybe Aunt Jane can introduce you to someone good.
With our daughter's looks, she'll surely find an educated man.
Mom, Dad, I quit my job. I'm going to learn advertising skills.
Hearing what I said, Mom and Dad's smiles froze instantly.
Lily, what nonsense are you talking about? Why did you quit your job?
Yes, why did you quit a good job?
Mom, there's no future in being a waitress. I want to learn a skill. Once I master it, I can stay in the city.
But Mom and Dad didn't understand. They blamed me for quitting a good job and said that since I was already of age, I should find a good match and get married.
What's going on? You just got back. Why the long faces?
Dad said nothing, gave me a stern look, and walked out angrily.
Sister-in-law, is there something going on?
Yes, and it's good news. Lily, you're at the age to find a match. There's someone from my family with good prospects, so I came to discuss it.
Yes, I had the same thought. I ran into sister-in-law on the way here, which shows that Lily is really lucky.
Mom looked embarrassed, not knowing how to respond.
Aunt Jane, Aunt Lisa, thank you for your kindness. But I want to learn advertising skills, and I'm not thinking about finding a match right now.
Hearing this, their faces immediately fell. They quickly asked about my job.
Well, there goes my good intentions. Quitting a paying job to become an apprentice, what ambition.
Exactly, couldn't even get into college and now dreaming of learning a skill.
After scolding me, they turned and left, looking as if I had committed some unforgivable sin.
You've embarrassed your dad.
The news spread like wildfire through the village, and my decision to quit my job and learn a skill became the talk of the town.
That girl from the Lee family must be crazy. Quitting a good job to learn some skill.
Exactly. Does she think being an apprentice is easy? She'll regret it soon enough.
Young people should take risks, but it's a pity she's not a boy.
No matter what others said, I continued on my path with my dreams and determination. Maybe I would achieve nothing. But doing nothing, just waiting to get married, spending my days around a husband and kids, and if unlucky, having to constantly please a mother-in-law, was not the life I wanted. No matter what, I had to give it my all. A month later, I officially became an apprentice at an advertising shop. The place where I stayed was very simple, just a folding bed in a corner of the shop with a curtain for privacy. I slept late every night but had to get up early to fold the bed away. Although meals were provided, I had to cook all 3 meals a day. If I used too much rice or oil, I would get scolded. The boss had a daughter in middle school who ordered me around like a servant. Despite the tough conditions, I endured it all to learn the trade. At first, they didn't teach me any skills, and I thought it was because I couldn't type. So, every night after work, I practiced typing diligently. 3 months later, I could type fluently using the Wooby method.
Vera, I've been here for a while now. Shouldn't I start learning?
Can you type?
I quickly assured her that I could, and she tested me on the spot. She was surprised at how proficient I was.
Not bad. You can use Wooby. All right. Let Sarah teach you.
She even reminded Sarah to teach me well. But my heart sank. From my observations, Sarah knew a lot but was difficult to get along with.
Sister Sarah, I'll be relying on you from now on.
She ignored me. I didn't take it to heart and asked her questions whenever I didn't understand something.
Can't you see for yourself? I'm not your parents.
Her words were harsh, but I didn't mind. After all, I had dealt with unreasonable customers while working at a hot pot restaurant. No matter what I did, Sarah wouldn't teach me anything about advertising design. Even when I asked the boss, she was impatient. I realized that the boss had no intention of teaching me. The shop was small, and the work could be handled by just Sarah and the boss. The boss's daughter was preparing for her high school entrance exams. The boss hired an apprentice mainly to ensure her daughter had good meals and to have an extra hand for chores. In short, she wanted free labor. Realizing this, I wanted to quit. But leaving without learning anything felt unacceptable. So, I adjusted my mindset and stayed. From then on, I stopped asking them for professional knowledge and learned on my own. I observed Sarah closely, learning bits and pieces about advertising design. Every night, I secretly used her computer to study. After nearly a year, I had learned almost everything, except for hands-on experience. One day, a client came to pick up business cards, but Sarah had forgotten to make them due to the busy schedule. The client was furious.
What's going on? I paid a deposit, and now you're telling me it's not done? Are you messing with me?
Sorry. I'll refund your deposit right away.
Refund? That's it? You've ruined my plans.
In this critical moment, I pulled out a pack of premium cigarettes and handed it to the client with a smile.
Mr. Johnson, please calm down. How about this design I made?
I showed him the design on the computer. Everyone's eyes were on me. The boss was surprised, and Sarah looked disdainful. But to everyone's surprise, Mr. Johnson was very pleased and praised my creativity.
This is fantastic. You have great talent.
After the crisis was averted, Vera thanked me and praised my work. I took the opportunity to ask for my salary, but the boss said it could wait until my apprenticeship was over. I knew she was just stalling and had no intention of paying me. But I chose to stay because I needed hands-on experience. After my performance that day, I knew I would get more opportunities to work, especially since the boss wanted to suppress Sarah. As expected, I got more opportunities to work, and I became more proficient. My sweet talk and good manners also won over many clients. But even after my apprenticeship ended, the boss didn't mention my salary. I knew she had no intention of paying me. Her behavior was too blatant, and there was nothing more for me to learn there. So, during a break, I found another job and then resigned. The boss was surprised and offered to pay me, but I was determined to leave. Besides, she only offered 500 yuan a month, thinking I was easy to manipulate. At the new advertising company, I worked hard and didn't slack off for a moment. With my foundation and effort, I became a key member of the company within a year. Another year later, my skills improved, and my salary increased to 6,000 yuan a month. Mom and Dad were thrilled when they heard the news. When I returned to the village, everyone admired me and praised my success. Mom and Dad were beaming with pride, and even Uncle John and Uncle Mike's families praised me. My cousins also started visiting Dad more often. When I heard that Cousin Emily was expecting again, I rode my bike to the neighboring village the next day. When I saw her, I almost didn't recognize her. Her hair was messy, and she had a big belly. She was taking care of a 2-year-old in a stroller while cooking. In just 3 years, life had worn her down.
Sis.
Lily.
The people in the house came out when they heard the commotion. Her mother-in-law and sister-in-law were there, but they let her cook despite her condition. They barely acknowledged me and didn't offer me a seat or tea. I was furious but held back for my cousin's sake.
Aunt, I'm leaving tomorrow and want to talk to my sister. Could you please handle the cooking?
I handed over the gifts I brought. She was about to scold me but changed her expression when she saw the premium cigarettes and high-end skincare products. In private, I learned that Cousin Emily's life was tough. Her husband came from a well-off family but valued sons over daughters. Since their first child was a girl, she had a hard time at home. I felt helpless and didn't know how to comfort her. After all, she had children and couldn't just leave. I gave her 10,000 yuan to keep for emergencies. Returning from Cousin Emily's house, I felt heavy-hearted. Despite modern gender equality, many rural areas and men still believed that only sons could carry on the family line. If I didn't have the strength to control my destiny, I might end up worse off than Cousin Emily. The thought sent a shiver down my spine. I had experienced Mom's hardships and was determined not to live that way.
I must open a shop, buy a house in the city, and establish myself so no one can interfere with my life.
My resolve to open a shop and settle in the city grew stronger. With this goal in mind, I stopped sending money home and saved all my earnings. Finally, 4 years later, I got my chance. My cousins were rough and quick in their search, turning the rooms into a chaotic mess in no time. Despite their efforts, no one found anything of value.
Look at this mess. They've turned the whole place upside down.
Suddenly, Lily's eyes fell on a floral jacket on the floor.
This is the jacket Dad bought for Grandma's birthday last year.
He bent down to pick up the jacket and noticed something in the pocket.
Dad, it's Grandma's bank book.
What? Let me see that.
Before she could finish her sentence, Cousin James rushed over to snatch it from her.
Give that to me. It's ours too.
The bank book revealed a balance of 60,000 yuan, not a fortune, but significant for a farmer. The next day, I boarded a train to head home. The following morning, I arrived at the doorstep with Henry, only to find the courtyard packed with people.
Oh, Lily, you're back. Come in, we were just discussing the inheritance with your dad.
Uncle John greeted me warmly, offering a seat and paying unusual attention to me.
Lily, now that you have such a big business, you should find someone to help.
The crowd around us began to clamor.
Your big brother lives in the village. If he is adopted by your dad, he can help take care of your parents, and you can work without worries.
Don't worry, Lily. I'll treat your parents like my own.
My son, little June, is also a good choice. He's educated and can help you manage your business while taking care of your parents. It's a win-win.
As soon as she finished, Cousin June nodded in agreement. Aunt Mary quickly promoted her college-educated son. The scene was chaotic, with everyone vying for attention. Mom and Dad sat at the head, smiling and enjoying the attention.
Mom and Dad, let me introduce you to Henry. We're getting married.
This announcement caused an uproar.
Marriage is great. The young man looks spirited. Brother, now that Lily is getting married, you should settle the inheritance matter.
Yes, brother, just tell us who you favor among the nephews. We're waiting for your decision.
Everyone chimed in, revealing their desire to take advantage, while Dad smiled contentedly.
Uncle John, Uncle Mike, there's no need for adoption.
Before they could respond, I continued.
Henry has promised to take care of my parents, and our first son will carry the family name. So, thank you for your concern.
In an instant, Uncle John and Uncle Mike's faces changed. They hadn't expected me to make such a move.
Lily, you mean well, but how will the in-laws see it? Brother, you don't want your daughter to be looked down upon before she's even married, do you?
Exactly, brother. Adoption is better. We aren't suited for city life.
Uncle John and Uncle Mike kept arguing, their greed evident.
Brother, you're right. As we age, we need to return to our roots. Having James in the village to take care of us would be ideal. Adopting him as my son would fulfill my wishes.
Hearing this, Uncle Mike immediately started complaining about his financial struggles.
Brother, June is getting married soon, and the bride's family demand a house. How about you help out with 200,000 yuan for a house in the county?
You're right. But 200,000 isn't enough for a house. Let's make it 500,000. Lily can cover it, she runs a company and doesn't lack money.
Uncle John and Uncle Mike's families beamed with joy, and their sons looked at me smugly.
I don't agree. Uncle John, Uncle Mike, you really have it all figured out. Just a few words, and you want to take my family's assets.
I slammed the table in anger.
When we were fighting over Grandma's inheritance, you didn't give us a penny. Now that I've made something of myself, you want to leech off me? No way! Get out, all of you!
I shouted hysterically, all my past grievances surging like a tide.
How dare you speak to your elders like that? Apologize.
He glared at me with anger and reproach. Seeing this, everyone gradually dispersed. The cousins were relentless in their search, turning the rooms into a chaotic mess in no time. Despite their efforts, nothing of value was found.
Suddenly, I noticed a floral jacket on the floor. It was the one Dad had specially bought for Grandma's birthday last year. Seeing Dad's thoughtful gift discarded, I felt a pang of sadness. I bent down to pick it up and noticed something in the pocket.
I pulled out a bank book with a balance of 60,000 yuan. It wasn't a fortune, but for a farmer, it meant a lot.
Dad, it's Grandma's bank book.
Before I could finish, Cousin James rushed over and snatched it from me. My cousins were rough and quick in their search, turning the rooms into a chaotic mess in no time. Despite their efforts, no one found anything of value.
Dad, it's Grandma's bank book. I shouted excitedly.
Suddenly, my eyes fell on a floral jacket on the floor. It was the one Dad had specially bought for Grandma's birthday last year. Seeing Dad's thoughtful gift discarded on the ground, I felt a pang of sadness. I bent down to pick up the jacket and noticed something in the pocket. I pulled it out and found a bankbook with a balance of 60,000 yuan. It wasn't a fortune, but for a farmer who toiled in the fields year-round, it was a significant amount.
Give that to me.
Before I could finish my sentence, Cousin James rushed over to snatch it from me.